Hey there, and welcome to Trey's Talks to Grow, your resource for leadership and management equipping. And today I want to talk to you about the 4 ingredients of a coaching conversation. Now, I know that some people bake from scratch. My wife loves to cook, and there's sometimes that she just bakes from scratch. She just knows from memory what it is that she's trying to do. And then there's some people that always follow a recipe. And it doesn't matter if you're naturally gifted at this, like you bake from scratch, or if it's something where you've got to follow some instructions. I believe that there's 4 basic ingredients that go into any good coaching conversation. And sometimes you may have to change the ingredients just a little bit to make it just right for what you're trying to accomplish. But these are 4 essential items that go into any type of coaching conversation that you're going to have with someone. So let's get into this and talk about it today. First of all, to get there though, I want to back up just a little bit before we jump into the coaching conversation and share with you what I call my hiring speech, because I believe that it all starts with a solid foundation. And if you're going to have coaching conversations later, which you will for one reason or another, if we start off on the right foot, if we set the right foundation in the beginning, those coaching conversations are going to go much, much better. So anytime I've ever hired someone, I give them the exact same speech. And I always talk about 3 basic things. And it's interesting when I have a lot of conversations with different managers and different leaders and I share this with them, it really resonates because they realize they haven't done this little piece of the puzzle, and then they wonder why things get off track later on. So my hiring speech basically consists of 3 basic factors, and here they are. First of all, competency. When I sit down with someone and we're bringing them on board, or we've hired them, or in the past when I was running different retail operations and we were bringing them on board, I talked to them about their competency. And competency was just, how they do their job and them having the actual ability to do the job. And I would explain to them that competency is a big deal and they've got to continuously learn and continuously grow and continuously get better at whatever it is that we were bringing them in to do. The second thing was commitment. Right? Commitment's such a big deal, and it's a little bit more abstract than competency, because competency is, here's the tasks. Well, commitment's things like, being to work on time, having the right attitude, participating where you need someone to participate. All of those things that sometimes we have to talk to people about later on. So competency, commitment, and then last, character. Now, character is an interesting one because usually you can help some people out with competency issues. You can help people out when they have some commitment issues sometimes. But character issues I always consider a red flag. And what I tell people all the time is when you discover someone has a character issue, you really need to scrutinize that very, very closely because it may be time to exit them off the bus. Character is kind of like a beach ball. If you're out in the ocean or out in the water and you're trying to push that thing down beneath the surface, pretty soon it's going to pop up. And people's character will pop up. And if you ever begin to discover something that you feel like is a red flag, you should probably react to that pretty quickly. So after I've had my hiring speech, if you will, with them, and I've talked to them about competency, commitment, and character, I feel like that sets the foundation for coaching conversations later, because almost everything that comes up falls neatly into one of those 3 categories. So think about your hiring speech. What do you need to talk to people about when you bring them on board? And then work that into something where you can feel like it'll be a system for you to talk to them later on should any issues arrive. So let's get into the actual coaching conversation and talk about the ingredients of a great coaching conversation. The first ingredient is this: clarity. Clarity is a beautiful thing. And in a lot of organizations, when you go in and there's a little bit of tension going on, it's because there is a lack of clarity. So use your coaching conversations to create clarity with your people. It doesn't mean that you have to know everything, right? You don't necessarily have all the answers. There's always going to be uncertainties, but it's your job to provide clarity through the uncertainties. And clarity, one of the things it does is it helps identify the win. If you have not clearly identified the win for your people and you've got the right people on the bus, guess what? They will make up their own win. That's just how it is. So you have got to clearly identify the win for your people and for your team. And then the next thing that it does is it creates the urge to act. This is what I love about clarity. If you've got the right people on the bus and you've clarified the win, it creates the urge inside of you to act, to move toward that goal. And the third thing that clarity does is it facilitates the proper outcome. There's so many people that they, at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, they go, wow, how did we end up here? And they're so confused by the results. Well, it's because there was a lack of clarity. And if you are clearly communicating the win and you're giving your people the urge to act, you will end up in the right place at the end of the time frame that you've designated. So ingredient number 1 is clarity. Ingredient number 2, ability. Make sure you discuss ability when you're having coaching conversations with people. And what is ability? Well, I'm going to define it as this. It's a combination of knowledge, skill, and talent. It's a combination of knowledge, skill, and talent. That's someone's ability. So let's break that apart a little bit. Knowledge, first of all, is what a person is aware of. It's both factual and experiential. So factual knowledge are the things that you've studied, that you've learned, that you've gained information on. It's inside of you, right? And then experiential knowledge are things that you've learned over time. Both of those are very, very important, and both of those are types of knowledge that people have. So make sure you talk to them about the knowledge. Sometimes when you're coaching someone, the solution to it is a knowledge thing, and you need to help them gain some knowledge in a particular area. The next part of that definition was skills, right? Now, skills are a little different than knowledge. Skills are the how-tos of a job or position. They can be transferred from one person to another. So skills are something that someone can pick up to do a particular position, the how-tos of a job. So you've got knowledge and you've got skills. Now, I want to talk to you about talent, because this is where I think so many times managers and leaders get frustrated. We try to fix things by addressing them from a knowledge perspective or from a skill perspective. But what we really may have is a talent problem. And the definition I want to give you for talent is this. It's the X factor, right? It's a special natural ability. In any of the hiring stuff you ever read, in any of the leadership information you ever find out about getting the right people on the bus, it tells you to hire for talent. And that's so important, yet no one ever goes and tells you how to actually do it. And it's because talent is so difficult to identify, and it's easier for us to talk about knowledge, and it's easier for us to talk about skills and try to match somebody up with that. But I'm going to do a little activity with you to show you how important talent is, okay? On your screen right now, you're going to see a slide, and this is one of those word challenges. And so hopefully by now you're taking it all in and you're trying to figure out this word puzzle and everything. And I'm not going to take too long with you on this, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer for those of you who maybe can't figure this particular one out. You'll notice in the middle of the word, and the word is million, in the middle of the word is the number 1, okay? So the answer to this particular word challenge is 1 in a million, okay? 1 in a million. Now, I'm going to teach you how to do pattern finding, okay? I'm going to teach you this skill. The first thing you do when it comes to pattern finding is you identify what seems to be out of place in the word. So think back to that one that we just did, and the number 1 was out of place within the word. Okay? The second thing you do is you evaluate where it is in relation to the word. Okay, that's the second thing that you do. So think back to that 1 in a million example, and you can remember that the 1 was right in the middle of the word million. And then you combine steps 1 and 2, and then you try to figure out the phrase from there. So I've just given you the skills on how to do the activity, on how to do pattern finding. So now you should be able to do it nice and easy, right? You have been trained. That's just like corporate America training right there. You're ready to go. So let me give you another one now. Take a look at this one and think about it for just a second, and think about the skills I just trained you on. Step 1, identify what's out of place. Step 2, where is it in relation to the rest of the word? Step 3, combine them together. So by now, hopefully, you've been able to figure out, maybe, maybe not, that the answer is a raise in pay or a pay raise. Something we all want and need, right? Okay, so there you go, raise in pay or a pay raise. Now, let's take a look at a couple more real quick to get this idea of talent across to you. Same thing. Look at the word itself and see what seems to be out of place. Where is it in relation to the rest of the word? Now, combine those factors together. And the answer to that one is a drop in temperature. A drop in temperature. Okay, real quick, just a couple more. Keep playing along. Look at the word. What's out of place? Where is it at? And by now, you've become experts at this, and you've figured out that that is a fall from grace. Okay? Last one. Now, this one's a little bit tougher, a little bit harder. Go ahead and try to figure this one out. Now, as you've looked at this one, and like I said, it's a little bit more difficult, it's a little bit harder to figure out, chances are you've struggled a little bit with this one. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. The answer is but on second thought. But on second thought. So here's what's interesting about that, okay? Perhaps you picked up on the skill along the way after I showed you how to do it and you figured those out, but then all of a sudden when it got to that last one, it was a little bit more challenging for you. And here's why. It didn't follow the exact same pattern as the other ones. And just because I gave you the skill didn't mean you could figure out how to do it, okay? And if you were able to figure it out, chances are you have the talent for pattern finding. Okay, I don't have that. These things are always tricky to me. But if you were able to figure it out, you have the talent for pattern finding, okay? Now that's real important to know because here's why. So many times you've got someone in a position that they don't have the talent to actually do it. And just like you looked at that puzzle and struggled with how to figure it out, and maybe crickets were chirping in your mind and you couldn't quite get it, the reason you couldn't is because you didn't have the talent. And you've got people in your organization sitting behind cubicles, sitting in offices, sitting behind spaces, perhaps doing sales, whatever, and maybe they don't have the talent to do the job. And you cannot fix a talent issue by trying to fix skills and knowledge. Sometimes you might have to change someone's seat on the bus if it's a talent issue. So talent is a big deal, and performance will always suffer if someone doesn't have the talent to actually do the task that you've challenged them to do. One of the areas I see this show up all the time is companies always want scripts written for different positions they have in their organization. They need a script for this and a script for that, for the front desk people and for these people. And here's what's interesting about scripts. They're great, and you can give them to people and they can establish a minimum standard. However, if they don't have the talent for relating with people, and the moment that thing goes off script, they're lost. And it's because they don't possess that talent to do it. So talent is a big, big deal. Let's talk about now the third ingredient. The third ingredient to a great coaching conversation is responsibility. Okay, so we just talked about ability. Now let's talk about responsibility. And this is so important, and I see this getting missed so many times. Responsibility is this. It's empowering or authorizing the clarity and the ability that you just gave to someone. It's empowering or authorizing the clarity and the ability that you just shared or gave to someone. So many times in so many organizations, we talk to people, we give them tasks, yet we don't actually set them up for success. And I think it's so important that not only do you let them know they have the ability, that they have that thing, but they've got the responsibility. They've been empowered. They have the authority to do whatever it is that you've tasked them to do. And then you also let other members of the team know. The last thing I would ever want someone to do is to go into a group of people and say, I need you to do this because Trey said so. You don't want them relying on your leadership. I don't want them relying on my leadership or authority. I want them to have their own responsibility. So you've got to let the rest of the team know about it as well. You know, when we do that and we make that mistake, it's as effective as when our children go and say, because mommy or daddy said so, and they tell the other sibling something we just told them to do. All that does is cause tension and an argument. So we've got to be sure that we've set people up for success and we've given them responsibility to do the things that we've tasked them to do. Last ingredient is this, and probably as important as all the other ones, okay? Each ingredient is essential. It is activity. Activity. And activity is an action plan based on all of the other ingredients. You see, action is where the miracle takes place. And some of these items may be short term and some of them may be long term, but you need to make sure you time activate them and you follow up where it's necessary. But the action plan is key and it's essential. If you don't create an action plan, then guess what? You just had a conversation and chances are nothing's going to happen. So it's essential that when you wrap up your meeting, when you're finishing things off, that you create an action plan. You talk about the activity that's going to take place as a result of your conversation. So let's recap real quickly here for you. The first ingredient is clarity. Make sure you're providing clarity, you're clarifying the wins, you're talking about the things that really produce a clear picture of what it is that you're after. The second thing is you talk about ability and what are the knowledge they need, what are the skills they need, what's the talent that they need. Third, responsibility. You empower them to do the job. And last, activity. You create a plan to make things happen. So Remember, discussion determines development. And it's in the conversation we get the revelation of who we can become and who we can help other people become as well. I hope that this talk has helped you grow today, and in turn, you go and help someone else grow as well.